welcome to One on One with me, Bridget Otu. It's good to have you all join us again, and I'm happy to be back. I've been away for so long, but it's so great to have all of you join us from wherever you are in Ghana. If you're watching us on television, if it's online, Facebook, Twitter, we're happy that you get to join us. I'm sure you've also seen the flyer. I have a young politician with me in the studio. He would be the second youngest parliamentarian because he is contesting in the stronghold of the NDC, National Democratic Congress. Unless by some miracle, the NPP pull a miracle. That miracle, it would take more than God, it would take more than juju, it would take so many things, because it is certain that he would be in the 9th Parliament. My guest is EDEM AGBANA. Thank you very much for joining us on One on One.
Thank you, Bridget, and I'm happy to have you back on air. We miss you on air.
Yes. I miss me too.
I'm a great fan of yours, and so I do watch your program very often.
Yeah, very good politician already.
Campaign. No, but I like your program. I'm a big fan of yours.
Right.
So I'm happy to be on your program.
Congratulations again. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you to all of you, to your viewers, and to Metro TV. I must say that the media played a key role in my campaign.
Right.
And so I want to thank Metro TV for giving me the platform on a number of occasions to articulate my views on national issues. It was a good way of telling the delegates what I am capable of doing when given the platform in the 9th Parliament. And so I'm really grateful to Metro TV for the opportunities you gave me throughout the campaign.
Right. It's interesting that you're young and you're going to be the second youngest, because our proverbial orator, lost to a much younger candidate, the ABA Ataisa, that's his name.
Yeah,
Ataisa. Hopefully, he was your junior in school. Yes. Hopefully, we'll have him also in the studio to tell us. It's interesting that you're young and you would be in Parliament. Did age in any way have an impact on you initially? Was it a positive factor? I mean, you've won now, but was it at the start? Was it negative to be young?
Yes, Bridget, age I thought was just a number until I started campaigning to be the parliamentary candidate of the NDC in Ketu North.
Okay.
For some delegates, age was a crucial factor. So they will ask you questions like, you are merely 32 years. Can you handle this big constituency? How will it feel like for me, 70 years old man, to approach you for support, for help, and all of that? So age really played a very big role in the campaign. At the same time, that age was seen as a negative for me, because Ketu North is largely a very conservative constituency.
Right.
And this is the first time Ketu North saw a number of young people contesting, and for me, being the youngest among all the 8 others, they really raised issues about my age. But at the same time, we had young delegates who were so excited that a young person much younger than them or their peer was in the contest. And so when you do a proper analysis of my support base, my first support base was largely among the youthful delegates. So you saw young people, some in their 20s, some in their 30s, so excited that we have a young person who is seeking to represent them in Parliament. And so they campaigned so passionately as though it was their own campaigns. And so at the same time, that age was a negative factor in some quarters. Our research also shows that it was a positive factor, especially among the youthful delegates.
Right.
So in the middle of the campaign, we needed to draw up strategies to remain very relevant and appealing to young people, but at the same time, adapt to the expectations of the aged.
Right.
And so sometimes I can share some of the campaign
right.
secrets.
Go ahead.
Sometimes when you're going to campaign, especially to the older folks. You have to let all the young folks in your team wait for you. Then you approach the older folks with much older people in the campaign team to create an impression to them that, yes, even when he becomes MP, he's not only going to be surrounded by young people. So you have a very serene environment to also interact with him because he can relate with older folks as well. So these were some of the strategies. We needed to draw a good balance. When you are approaching young people, you go with very youthful members of the team because the young people were looking for a new face. They were looking for a new order of doing things. And so with them as well, when you go with the same old faces they have known as the influencers in the constituency, then they started feeling that, oh, Edem is young, but he's coming to continue the same old order. Maybe nothing much will change. And so we needed to draw a very, very good balance between the two. And so age really played a key role in the campaign.
I think in even answering, you've mentioned two of the fears. One is that you said they wanted to be sure that you can handle, this huge platform.
This huge platform.
And I think the second is that the adaptability, having to connect with older folks. You're not going to be around, young. What's the yippee?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes,
but what are the other fears that they talked about in entrusting a young person with a constituency as huge as Ketu North?
The other fear was the issue of resources. Do you have enough resources to take care of the constituency? Because even though the primary responsibility of members of parliament is legislation, we have a situation where MPs are seen as development agents. They are there to solve problems. So MPs pay school fees, they are paying hospital bills, they are virtually supporting businesses, individuals, schools from their personal pockets.
Right.
So the next biggest question was, do you have enough resources to take care of us in the constituency? When we have challenges and we come to you, where will you raise money or resources from to support us? Can you do it? That was one of their fears. And so we conducted 3 different surveys. Surprisingly, that was the biggest fear for most of the delegates, aside the age. And so we needed to prepare a response for that question as well. And so that was one of their fears. The other fear they had, which also relates to the issue of resources, had to do with our ability to engage in the politics of monetization like the NPP does. Because Ketu North has a history of a candidate from the side of the NPP who since 1996 has been on the ticket consistently, except in 2012 when he was replaced by the Honorable Pius Enam Hajide, a former Deputy Minister for Sport. And so this gentleman has been on the ticket for the NPP since 1996. In the last 2 elections, he introduced a certain culture of monetization into politics in Ketu North, where on election day, he was paying people 20 cedis, 10 cedis, 30 cedis to go vote for the NPP.
Right.
And so people asked that in 2024, will you have the ability to match him if he decides to do or engage in that dirty politics of monetization? What will be your best response for it and all that? So these were some of the questions that the delegates asked. Their fear was that maybe we're going to vote for a young person who is very articulate, who can represent us but may not have the needed resources to take care of their constituency. And these were big issues in the campaign. And so for some of my opponents, that became their biggest selling points. On every platform, they were touting resources that they had, businesses that they were managing, and how much money they can pump into politics in Ketu North. But we stayed true to a certain principle that the NDC does not fancy politics of monetization. It is alien to us. That we appreciate politics of ideas, politics of clarity of vision, politics of teamwork and solidarity, and that you don't need to be a billionaire to become a member of parliament.
Okay.
You don't need to have so much money to manage a constituency. What it takes to manage a constituency is vision and effective leadership. And
okay.
I think that message sold, and the delegates bought into it.
Okay, so I'm going to put those questions back to you, because
Yes.
those were their fears,
Yes.
and they put them in question. So what was your response to, first of all, if you would have the money to pay our fees, to pay our school fees, bills, to come to the funeral, naming ceremony, what was your response?
For the past 12 years, in my own little ways, Bridget, I have paid fees for friends, colleagues. I've supported many people in schools. I support people who are in difficult situations. And I always say that you don't need to be a millionaire, or you don't need to be very wealthy yourself to be able to do all of these things all by yourself. Sometimes what it takes is a good social network. And so I have seen MPs who entered parliament with very little, but because of the vision that they have for their constituencies, they have been able to mobilize support, resources from individuals, from organizations, and even corporate bodies, and they invest so much in their constituencies. So, for example, just a week after my election, I supported or worked with an organization to donate desktop computers to a school in my constituency. Now, to the constituents, it is the instrumentality of EDEM that is why they got those items. But it didn't take my personal resources to buy those things. Issues of scholarship or payment of fees. We have a plan to introduce a scholarship scheme where sons and daughters of the land, I mean Ketu North, where businesses operating in Ketu North, and we have engaged some entrepreneurs, are willing to make regular payments into our account, into the scholarship account, to support payment of fees and all of that. And so when that is happening, it is akin to me paying school fees. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all the money is coming from my personal pocket. So leadership comes to play, social network comes to play, and the ability to sell your vision to those with the needed resources to support you really comes to play. So we explained, and I must say, I cited several examples of other young MPs who are doing exceptionally well using these models. And so, because
did you cite Okudzeto Ablakwa?
Yes, I have worked with the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, so obviously I cited him in many of my examples. But there are many other shining examples.
Right.
The likes of Alassane Suhini, the likes of Sam George, and Sam George was in my constituency at least twice to campaign for me. Yes, to campaign for me. And
wow.
so his presence alone was an indication that this young man in Ningu Pram is doing something great, and we all admire him in Ketu North. If he is connected to our candidate, EDEM AGBANA, it means that the two of them may be on the same page, or EDEM will receive mentorship from him. So I must say that his presence really helped as well in getting some delegates to support us. The likes of the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, he's also another shining example of a young man who entered Parliament and has been a pillar of support to his people. And he's such an influential member of Parliament that as a young person, I'm glad to be learning from people like that. And there are many other examples, even in the Volta region. Many other people who entered when they were quite young. Outside the Volta region, the likes of Akando and others. And so I must say that because of these shining examples, it wasn't too difficult getting the delegates to believe that you don't need to have $1 million in your account to become a member of Parliament. All you need is effective leadership, is the vision, and your ability to rely on your social network. And that helped. That was my best response to them on the issues of resources.
But the primaries, really, the delegates have the power to choose whoever. And is it 17? NDC lost 17 incumbents, about 17 incumbent MPs
Yes.
have lost
Yes.
their seats and are not going back to parliament, and that's a lot. And you would think that if they are MPs, it means they have the resources to be able to, for want of a better word, buy delegates to going back. So how did just words, just mere words, convince a delegate to say, okay, yeah, EDEM has a fantastic idea, but okay, let's go with him instead of EDEM? Give us something. How? What did the magic? What did the trick? How?
I think that every constituency has its own dynamics.
What's the Ketu North dynamic?
And in Ketu North, since '92, we've had only 2 MPs.
Right.
The Honorable Modesto Sahian Blair, who was MP from '92 to 2004. The Honorable Dr. James Kuche Abeji took over from 2005, and his tenure ends 2024 before I will take over from him. But the delegates in Ketu North are not so used to the politics of monetization. They are not used to it. And I'm sure that happened in most of the constituencies, because it's not just about resources. Yes, resources do play a role, because some delegates want to know that after voting for you, you should be able to even mobilize resources to campaign in the general elections. And so we can't deny the fact that having resources is key in politics. But I'm not sure it is the major determinant of who becomes victorious in the internal primaries. Several other factors comes to play. Issues of track record. I went into the contest as a former national executive of the party. And so I kept asking the delegates, you've seen me work as Deputy National Youth Organizer for the NDC for 4 years. Give me your own assessment and see whether or not, by that standard or performance as Deputy National Youth Organizer, I am capable of leading this great constituency of ours. And so I had track records to sell. I also had social network to sell. We conducted a research. Surprisingly, the third most important factor to the delegates was the social network of the candidates within the party.
Right.
Why? Because everybody appreciates the fact that, Bridget, the national cake is not big enough to feed everyone. And so when you are a member of parliament, the constituents expect that even when it becomes very difficult and government is building only 200 community day schools, out of the 200 at least, you must be one of the few MPs who should have 1 or 2 in your constituency. Right. What does that take? It must take social network. And that is why within the campaign, almost every candidate tried to establish a relationship or sell the relationship they had with the flag bearer, the then presumptive flag bearer, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Fortunately for some of us, because we have had some working relationship or closeness which is known to the public, it wasn't difficult. So we didn't need to go take pictures with President Mahama at a funeral and share that. No, but I mean,
I get the example. The example is just funny. I get you.
And so we didn't need to take a picture with him at a funeral to portray that he knows you or you have a relationship with him.
But you still had to take the likes of, the former, what's it called, minority speaker in Parliament, Haruna Idrisu, was there to speak for you. Sam George is an MP.
He wasn't in my constituency.
He wasn't in your constituency, but Sam George was there.
So Sam George came.
All right.
The Honorable Ablakwa came. Okay. On my birthday, I had a program. He was there.
These are all
the likes of Obobia. So, for example, the day before election, on the 12th, okay, we had elections on the 13th May. On 12th May, Honorable Obobia was in my constituency to speak to all the female delegates. Now, this woman, seeing Obobia and her and the caliber of person she is within the NDC, were excited. They were excited because their expectations are that when you win and you become a member of parliament, and there are opportunities or any support programs for women, whether coming from Maslog or anywhere else, we need somebody who can speak for us to get those things. Now, you can't do it alone as a member of parliament. And so seeing the likes of Obobia around the campaign, they were confident that this young man had what it takes to become their representative in parliament. And so those individuals coming into the constituency, I must say, helped. It was all part of the reasons why we won. But you see, when you're going into an election, it's like selling a product. You must sell the aspect of the product, or the benefit of the product that you believe will be most convincing to the buyer. So we had a social network. We had social capital within the NDC. We had track record and relationship with the people who I can describe as the creme de la creme of the NDC.
Party,
I was a spokesperson to the national chairman. All these things came to play. And so the delegates were not scared voting for you because they believe that, oh, when we send EDEM there, the national cake is not big, but EDEM will not have to join a queue to get us what we deserve in Ketunot because, oh, national chairman knows him, President Mahama knows him. Look, Obobia and co, all the MPs, look, even Sam George came to the constituency. That tells you the level of influence EDEM already has in the party. So all these things were factors that played in our favor. And I must say that it was just an interesting elections, and I learned a lot. Maybe I should write a book on how to win how to win a delegate election.
So EDEM, how many people did you bus?
No, I didn't need to bus anyone because we had delegates defined. The constituency.
You didn't give transportation. I mean, President Mahama
gave
40 seats.
No, we gave transportation, and if any candidate tells you that they didn't give transportation to delegates and all that, that may be a blatant lie.
How much did you give?
We all give, but that's supposed to be an internal party issue.
Your Mahama gave national 40, so
no,
local, how much was it?
I'm not sure President Mahama announced his own. It's
he
the
did.
recipients
He did. It's not the recipient.
I do know it's interesting.
It was announced in a release that he was giving
transportation.
Yes.
But you see, this is what happens. So we voted.
What about food? So it's transportation,
yes,
food. How does it work?
So I provided food, and just like many or the other aspirants. So this is how it works. They were not voting. We have for Ketunot. Let me give you a practical explanation of how Ketunot looks like.
Sure.
So we have 4 traditional areas in Ketunot. We have 138 branches. So with these 138 branches, we voted at a center called Penny. For some of the delegates, they needed to spend close to 80 cedis because they will come with a motorbike. Because the place, wherever you vote, is one point will be very far from other places. There are some places very difficult to even get a bus or a car to those places to get the delegates to come and vote. So we always make arrangements for them that don't worry, pick your motorbike and come. When you come, we will refund your transportation. So depending on the candidate and his or her strength, they will decide how much transportation they will give. Now when they come, voting started at about 8 a.m. and ended at 4 p.m. Then counting and sorting and counting and all those things begin. Most of these delegates wait to still take part in these activities. You have invited, just like you receiving guests, from 8 a.m. to even 4 p.m. Obviously, you need to give them water, you need to give them food, and receive them well. It's all part of you showing your ability to lead them. And so we provided all those things. But I can tell you for a fact, even though I may not be able to mention figures, that Ketu North, the election was not decided based on the fatness of the envelope. Because if that was the case, I'm sure I would have lost miserably. But that certainly was not the case. If the delegates in Ketu North voted or wanted to vote based on how much they received from aspirants, I'm not sure I'll be with you here today as the winner.
Right.
Because what I gave was just a little token. But they bought into the vision, they believed in my capabilities, and then they voted for me.
Okay. So we're having a conversation with the former Deputy National Organizer of the NDC, current
Parliamentary
PC
candidate.
for K2, Parliamentary candidate PC for K2 North. And he will be going to Parliament, like I said, unless the NPP pulls some magic, maybe build a new airport, build it, buy them a private jet, buy everyone a car. I don't know. Some magic has to happen. If not, EDEM AGBANA will be in the 9th Parliament. But we'll be talking more about this money conversation and how much it's influenced the election and his constituency, especially. It was so tight. When we come back from the break, I'll be asking more about the money issue and then talk about the tie that was later declared and his relationship with the gentleman involved. We'll be right back. Welcome back to One on One. Join us with your thoughts and comments on this very exciting conversation. I'm enjoying that we're going to have a very young parliamentarian to serve Ghana at a time when Ghanaian youth, young people, are running away from politics. They want to have nothing to do with politics. I would ask him about, what did it for him? Why did he decide that he would do this? And also keep your comments coming. Use the hashtag #OneOnOne on Metro TV. So, Eden, before the break, I asked you about this whole issue of money, how much you pay delegates. You said depending on where one came. In other words, does that mean that some people got more than others?
Yes, some people. So we voted in Fenyi. So delegates from Fenyi, obviously, will receive far less.
So they don't. Okay.
Yeah, because most of them are not too far away from the voting center.
Okay.
But if you know Ketu North very well, and you're voting in Fenyi, and delegates coming from a place like Begbekope and all those places, they will spend more.
So about how many kilometers? Because I don't know that.
Not sure I can give it in terms of kilometers,
but in terms of time,
on a bike you could spend 35 to to 40 minutes to get there, and some of these roads are not even good enough, and so that day it rained partially, so you can imagine. So some of them had to endure the rain, pass through the rain just to come and cast their votes, because we needed their votes for President Mahama and their respective parliamentary candidates as well. So we needed to give them something for transportation.
And they understood that, or were they aware that if you're near, obviously your envelope will be smaller. If you're far,
yes. So for Ketu North, that has been the practice over the years. And so last year, when we had our constituency elections, it was held at Apipe, another community. So residents of Apipe, who obviously spent less or nothing on transportation, received very, very little. But those that came from Fenyi, Georgia, and other places got higher amounts. But these are just little tokens calculated based on how much on the average one is to spend on transportation, and so not really anything to influence the delegates. But I think we have a problem with monetization in our politics. It's a challenge.
Because if you don't do it, someone else will do it.
Yes, everyone will do it, and someone else will do it, and then you will be seen as you are
stingy.
Yeah, you are stingy. You are not generous enough to be their leader and all of that.
But isn't that exactly why? Isn't that the point of this? That then it's a problem with us voting or as delegates? Is that not what it is?
It's not just a problem with the delegates, it's a problem with all of us. And I think that both parties, the NDC and the NPP, we sincerely have to take a good look at monetization of our politics. Because yes, I won't deny the fact, both NDC and NPP, whether it is constituency, regional, national elections or parliamentary primaries, people give money, people give items. People share flat screen TVs, people share fridge, people share all sort of items to influence the delegate. I think it's a culture.
But is it in addition to food,
yes,
water
in addition
and drinks?
to food,
because
water.
I thought that, okay, if you want to change the culture of, monetization, which it will take more than one person, why don't you just commit to just say food? Why can't they take their own car and come and say, okay, we think that he can represent us in our constituency very well, and I'm more than happy to spend 20 cedis on transport just to go and cast my vote for him. Why should that not be enough?
It is not enough because sincerely, there are some delegates who even the 20 cedis to pick a motorbike on their own to come and vote, they don't have.
Right.
So that also speaks to the level of poverty in some areas, not in my constituency alone, I mean across the country. And I interact with my friends who contested and either won or lost in other constituencies. So that some don't even have the 20 cedis.
Right.
Some also do, but the understanding is that it is your responsibility as the person we are going to vote for to come and support us to come and vote for you.
Right.
There are some who also feel that it is their cocoa season, that they need to cash out from you, the delegates. And so these are challenges that I think all of us must confront. We must deal with this issue of monetization. I was telling a friend in the NPP the other day on one sister station that let's stop denying the obvious. Ghanaians know. Everyone knows that during these elections, you put something in an envelope, you add some material things because you want to be kind or give the delegate something. It may not necessarily be to influence them to vote for you, because some receive higher amounts of money from other candidates and still go vote for a candidate of their choice. But we must put a stop to the culture of monetization in our politics. And all of us can do it if we are committed to it. In other jurisdictions, the amount of money candidates spend in an election is a matter of public knowledge. And so when you go to the US, for example, they raise millions of dollars in campaigns. I recall that in 2008, even as a young boy in secondary school, I tried to contribute to the Obama campaign. And so even now, till today, I still receive emails from the Democrats because I was excited about the whole idea of Obama. They will tell you, give $1 to do this. But they come back with a proper account of what the money is spent on, mostly on publicity or advertisement. But here in our country, we are not even able to properly track how much candidates are spending. I think it was the CDD or the IEA, one of them, tried to give, they roughly calculated.
They said how much presidential candidates, I think it was CDD.
Yes,
I think,
for CDD.
Spent about $100 million.
Yes, $100 million for a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And
so
for parliamentary candidates.
100 million cedis. I think it should be cedis.
Was it cedis?
I think it should be dollars.
Yes.
I think it's
maybe
it was
we
100,
should check.
But it was 100 million. It was 100 million.
That's
over 100,
on the
just
average.
To be, they did it for just the flag bearer.
Exactly. That was their calculation. And to be MP, they say you needed about 4 million Ghana cedis to enter parliament. And so when you go into what this money is used for, is spent on, you realize that we have a big problem with monetization.
Okay,
we need to confront it.
We're not having a national. We're having a kitchen conversation. So I want to ask you, how much did you spend on your campaign?
Well, it will be very difficult for me to at this point properly give you an accurate figure. It will be difficult. Why? Because how much you spend on your campaign. I didn't spend on my campaign alone. So for example, I got to Georgia to campaign, and a young man by name Frank Jamesi, who is well known in Georgia, he's a delegate, printed or designed and printed T-shirts with EDEM for KN, and then brought it. His friends were wearing it and donated a few to me.
Free? He did it on his own?
On his own.
Okay.
A young man. He was actually a delegate.
Okay.
So excited about the idea. Everyone knows him in Georgia.
Okay.
He did all that, printed by himself, donated to me. That can also be, let me say, an expenditure.
Right.
Because he spent some amount of money. Ideally, maybe I should have asked him, how much did you spend on this? We'll put all of that into the calculation. Then also, the campaign didn't run within, or expenditure on the campaign was not only within the period of the campaign. From the very day you entertain the idea of contesting, you need to nurture the constituency, embark on some projects, football gala, health screening, some other social activities to announce your presence or your candidature.
Right. On
all of these, you spend on some of them. I renewed National Health Insurance card for constituents, not delegates. Constituents. Obviously, some may be delegates, but we did it in some communities because many of them had their cards expired, but they didn't even have the money to go renew it. And so, when you put all of this together, that was the expenditure. I'm unable to give a proper.
But you just cited the Obama campaign, example where you get emails, from them. There's an annual,
declaration,
budget,
yes,
and declaration of expenditure. Where
it is because of the structure of their campaign.
But,
it's a bit different from ours.
if you're if you're inspired or by those, then you should be doing the same thing. Because if not, then. So
it depends on the structure, like I
said. Because being an MP is an institution.
Yeah, in those places the structure. So now entering, it will be much more easier to take proper account.
Do you have sponsors?
Yes, I had many sponsors.
How much did the sponsors contribute?
I had many sponsors, including I'm not sure how much did my sponsors contribute.
Yes.
No, so my campaign team had a short code, where friends from school and friends contributed an amount of money. From that short code alone, I raised about 150,000 Ghana cedis. So friends, they were sharing it on Facebook everywhere and decided to Legon students and said, look, this guy was an exceptional SRC president. We all saw his work. We love him. Put in 200, put in 100, put in 1,000, and especially those who were gainfully employed, they contributed massively, and I raised about 150. It came in, let me say, in tranches, in tranches, because prior to me buying the form, for example, when I was going to buy my form, Ignite Ladies, an initiative that I work with Obobia on, they donated 2,000 Ghana cedis to me openly to be able to buy.
But you're supposed to. But you're supposed to keep account. But you're supposed to keep account of all of that.
Yes.
So give us an idea, because there are other young people who are inspired by your journey right now, who are motivated and would want to go in, who might be afraid because of the
huge
excessive monetization or extreme monetization of it. And then you have conquered. You have given us one avenue. One is that you have a sponsor. Two is that, or you have sponsors.
You have sponsors.
Two is that you had a public, you had a platform where people could contribute.
Using short codes.
Contribute. Yes. So they have an idea of if I'm nurturing this, like you said, you have to nurture it. If I'm nurturing this, how do I get there? Because we really want to be honest with young people. You sound like you're open and you want to do that. So that's why I'm asking you. How much do your sponsors contribute? You should know. My sponsor gave me 50,000. This one gave me 100. Or I had,
sponsors. Sponsors. So, like I said, all this. So everyone who contributed, even those who sent 10 CDs, to that short code are also sponsors
Yes,
of the campaign.
I agree
Then
with
outside the platform, you have friends and people who, out of goodwill, who make some donations to your campaign.
Okay.
Many of them are people who ask you not to disclose.
Sure.
So some of them are not politically exposed persons.
But aren't they those who end up controlling?
No,
because
no.
there's this fear that,
there's
this fear that people who give money behind their controlling, say, oh no, they get when you become MP, they will get the contracts in the constituencies. I mean, but that's what it is.
So my policy, and I have been very consistent on this, is that when it comes to issues of political financing, it's proper for you, the recipient of the support, to know the terms and conditions attached to the support that comes.
Right.
And so when friends, families decide to contribute to your campaign, you must know what are they expecting in return.
Right.
I think that when you have procurement laws working properly in this country, it should be impossible for an individual, like a member of parliament, to decide who gets what contract. And if you look at our district assembly structure, it is not the MPs that award contracts at the district level. And so a member of parliament, you have no contract to award. It is the DCEs who give such contracts. When the common fund is sent to you in the district assembly fund, all you have to do as MP is to write and say, for example, the people of Taji in my constituency, they deserve an ICT lab. And so I am writing to you as a DCE or the MC to release, let's say, 30,000 Ghana cedis for the construction of an ICT center. Right. That is how far you can go as a member of parliament.
But so you have influence. I mean, you literally can even influence, who the president.
I don't believe that, because I've worked with.
Oh, MPs. You're saying the MPs don't have influence, like they cannot
influence on who gets a contract? I don't think so.
No, if with the MCE, as in the MCE.
But the MCE is appointed
by the president. That's what I mean. And if the president has your ear, you go to the president, you are the MP.
Is accountable to the president. I don't see how a member of parliament can control who gets a contract at the district assembly. That's what I know, because I've worked with members of parliament as I speak.
Yeah.
So you have a situation where the Honorable Dr. James Kuchabeji is my MP.
Right.
We have an MCE appointed from the NPP. Do you think that he will have an influence on a government appointee as to who gets a contract?
You've given a very good example of what happens in the strongholds, but there are some constituencies where it's same. So
and in many constituencies, even when your party is in power,
even the example you cite is the same as Kataman, so NDC and then the MC is MPP. Yes, so
but I'm sure you know also that in most constituencies, when your party is in power, MCs and MPs are always at loggerheads.
Because MCs want to be MPs eventually. That's what happens.
So if MCs want to be MPs, or MCs feel that they are only accountable to the president who appointed them, how will the MP influence them as to who they give a contract to? I think that some of these things exist in
isolation.
Yes, maybe one or two cases. But I've worked with members of parliament, and I have never confronted a situation where they tried to influence or they had a hand in how the MP's common fund is spent, or who gets a contract at the district assembly level. They do their work. Most MPs are only interested in doing things that the constituents wants, so that they can get their vote in the next election. But as to who gets what contracts, what have you, I don't think I will be interested in influencing my MC to give contract to anyone. That's not why I'm in this. That's not why I'm going to parliament.
So we're coming back to the point. So roughly, how much did you spend?
Well, Bridget, I think it's still difficult to
because there are young people who are inspired and motivated by you.
Yes. Maybe I should take this as a homework. Get back. Start from the very.
EDEM, I'm going to make it a lot easier. I'm going to make it a lot easier. I'm going to make it a lot easier. I'm going to make the question a lot easier. How much of your personal money did you spend on the campaign?
how much of my personal money?
Yes.
I think by the time we got to 30th May, on 30th May, I had to withdraw every single savings I had in my account.
Like 1 million in your savings.
I mean, not. No. You are
How
going too
much?
far. You are going too far. I'm not sure I even I'm not sure I spent anything close to that amount. No, I'm not sure I spent anything close. But like I said, I'll take it as an assignment. You see, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to engage.
You already sound like a member of parliament.
I don't want to engage in guesswork.
Okay, so
I'm
going to move on. Don't worry, I'm going to move on.
I want to give you a proper account
right.
of how much I spent. I'll do that some other time.
Right. So it was close. I mean, it was
Very
a tie.
close.
Initially, it came 1 vote, and then we heard it was a tie. The AC would have to do, another. And then the party decided that. I think the party law says that, look, in situations like this, it can be settled. I want you to take us to that room where you met and they decided that, look, he won. Initially we counted and then we saw some ballots were not stamped. So just take us
so
to that room.
this what happened. I think that
room.
not too many people, because at a point I was asked by the party not to speak
right.
to the media. Not too many people know what went on after the count.
Right.
I won by 1 vote.
Right.
I had 360. My brother Jonathan, who had 359. His agents demanded for a recount of his votes.
Okay.
It was recounted. He still got a 359. They requested for a recount of mine. It was recounted. I still had a 360. Then all the other candidates had their votes counted.
Right.
The returning officer wrote the 360, 359, the others on the pink sheet, and our agents signed. Right before declaration, the returning officer came back that there's a new request to check the validity of the ballot. By validity of the ballot, they wanted to see whether all the ballot papers were stamped, not stamped, and whether they were valid. But how do you check validity? There are 2, 3, or more ways of checking. One, the serial numbers. And so when they checked and they realized that 2 of my ballot papers or 2 of my votes were not stamped, they requested to check the serial numbers to confirm whether those ballot papers were foreign materials or not. Right. And when they checked,
by that as in they came from the very constituency, the very place
booklet,
you voted.
Yes, okay. Whether the papers were from the booklet
that was issued. Oh, right.
And so they checked, and we have pictures and videos, and everything tallies, meaning these were not foreign materials. Then they checked, was there overvoting? Because if there is overvoting, it means it is possible that the EC official who issued the ballot may have identified Bridget as EDEM's fan or supporter and decided to give her an extra ballot paper. Right. And so they checked. There was no overvoting. The total number of people who voted tallies with the total number of votes that they had counted. And so they checked the validity and said, no, then these votes cannot be declared as invalid, because you can't punish the candidate or the voter for the negligence of an electoral officer whose responsibility was to put stamp on the paper. But in the heat of all of these confusions, then the news went out that it was a tie, because when you take 2 out of EDEM's own, what have you. So we went to the party. We were there with our lawyers. My brother came with his lawyers. The regional executives were there. Constituency executives had their reps. And the lawyer who supervised the elections on behalf of the region, they all came, gave their accounts. And at the end of the day, looking at the guidelines of the party and whatever evidence was presented to all of us, it was clear that I won the election. And we all accepted, went back to the constituent. Unfortunately, in situations like this, I suspect our opponent in the NPP wanted to take advantage of it and fuel some demonstrations and what have you. But at the end of the day, I can tell you.
So John Adanu was calm about it.
Yeah, he was calm. He was in the meeting on the day after. He he addressed a press conference to announce his acceptance of the decision.
Right.
Yes, and then all of that, those statements were out there for everybody to see. So, but right after the press statement, like I said, I believe our friends in the NPP, who obviously are so disturbed by my candidature, decided to sponsor some individuals to go on demonstrations and what have you. But I can tell you that the Ketu North NDC is united, and on Monday we had our reconciliation meeting. And
with who?
All the
John
parties,
and then who?
John was there. All the other,
but
all my opponents were there except
these
two.
Are,
those two who were absent, I spoke to them on phone. They explained the reason for their absence. It wasn't as if they were not interested in the meeting or anything like that, but something took them out of town, and so that's why they were not there. But everybody else, the constituency executives, regional chairman and his vice.
You organized this, or the
no,
party?
the region organized.
The region.
It.
So that's it. So I want to know what personal efforts have you taken in, because I mean, for John to get literally half of it, it means that he has some support, and you would need that kind of support when you go to Parliament. I want to know what personal efforts have you taken in ensuring that you have a good relationship with him. You move on as one and win the constituency. I mean,
yes. So
unless NPP does maybe buy a plane,
they can
buy
a car
they before they can win that constituency.
Yeah,
but for the party to be united,
I spoke to all my opponents even before the meeting. I spoke to all my opponents. I called them. Some I met them. Those who were available, I met them. Spoke to their campaign managers. I reached out to their campaign teams and some stakeholders, key stakeholders who supported those individuals. I can tell you, Bridget, that yes, unity and peace building is a process, it's not an event. But Ketu North NDC will go into the 2024 elections stronger, more united than ever. And our agenda is to get 85% of the votes for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and for EDEM AGBANA. And let me tell you something. When you come to Ketu North now, the NPP is so disturbed because I won. You know why?
Why?
I was the favorite of the young people. And just get to Ketu North. Go there with your cameras. Young people who in 2020, 2016 were campaigning against the NDC or doing the skirt and blouse, preaching all of that. Many of them have come back. Since my election, I can count not less than 200 known NPP people who have announced publicly that they have defected from the NPP and they are going to support my candidature. So we are taking things just one step at a time. But I can assure you that in 2024, EDEM AGBANA and John Dramani Mahama will get nothing less than 85% in the general elections. And so there's work to be done. We are committed. We'll be ready to do the work. And I know for a fact that victory will be ours.
Okay, so a very big thank you to you, EDEM AGBANA. I've absolutely enjoyed the conversation. Former Deputy National Organizer of the National Youth Organizer of the NDC, current PC Ketu North, and soon he'll be an Honourable Member of Parliament for Ketu North. Please, Honourable. So thank you, and I wish you all the best on your round. So if you're a young person, I hope you're inspired by his journey, his story, the challenges that he encountered, and you are inspired even more to join politics. I always say, look, join politics. What are they going to say? Insult you? We'll be right back.